welcome to another video. It's been a while. I've been promising this video for a while. I actually pointed out, I think on Twitter, and I don't know if people realize, but this device has been sitting back over here on the armrest of this couch behind me for the last like month, and I don't think anybody figured it out. I don't think anybody knew. And I'm going to get into exactly how I'm going to talk about this today, but I have purchased a Steam Deck. So this is my Steam Deck, as you guys can see. So I wanted to talk about it today, kind of just give my thoughts on the Steam Deck. Being exactly what the Steam Deck is, I'm not capturing footage from it because it's kind of redundant. That I literally could just pull Steam up on my computer and capture footage that way. Like, I do have the TV dock. I will talk about the TV dock in a minute because I think there's a lot of cons to the TV portion of this device. But as a handheld, this thing is fantastic. And especially if you're a Steam user like me who has acquired like hundreds of games over the last decade, which, like, I think the last time I looked, I have over 680 Steam games. This device is perfect, but it has some caveats, and we're going to talk about that today. So, what really tipped me over the edge to buy a Steam Deck, I waited a year. I didn't want to jump into it right away when they were first announced because we're talking about Valve here. Valve doesn't have a good track record with hardware. They never really have. If you remember to a couple years ago when they did the Steam machines, when they did the Steam Link, the Steam controller, those things really didn't pan out very well. The Steam Link just ended up turning into an application you can use to stream games that, you know, has some good and bad things going on with it. On the flip side of that, the Steam controller was kind of a fucking disaster. People don't really care for that shit. And then the Steam machines. I was at GameStop at the time that they were trying to push these Steam machines. We never sold a single one. In the entire time I was at GameStop. These things literally sat. We had like 3 or 4 of them. They sat in the back room until we ended up shipping them back to corporate because nobody wanted to buy a pre-built, like, console, but it's actually a computer when you can just go build your own fucking computer that's better, because these machines were already out of date when they hit the market. So, yeah, Valve doesn't have a good track record with hardware, so my first thing was I don't want to invest in a Steam Deck until I know for sure that this product is going to last for a while, that this is actually something Valve is going to care about. They're going to support it for a while. And from everything I've read too, the first like 6 to 8 months of this device was very much like almost an early access device. They had a lot of updates and stuff. And today, like, the experience is very good. It's not perfect. It's not going to work like a Nintendo Switch. Clearly, they're going for that market. With the TV dock and everything. You might run into funky situations where you load up a game and it just doesn't work. Or it says that it has controller support and you load it up and it doesn't show any of the controller prompts. It shows PC keyboard prompts instead. You might see that happen. That's disappointing. That's kind of hard to swallow at times, but it's few and far between. Like, a lot of games have been tested. What's nice on Steam is it'll tell you actually on your actual Steam Deck, like when you load it up and assign your account, it will actually curate the list of games that are 100% compatible. And then after that, you kind of have to go through and look. Like, I'll say this, there are a lot of games on there that are still compatible that aren't on that fully compatible list. And it might be like something stupid is like, oh, the text is small. And it's like, no shit, but when you're, you know, it still works. And that can be troublesome as well. But there's games on here that, like, should work that are just fully not compatible. I'll give you a prime example. Batman Arkham City and Arkham Asylum, those games are not compatible on here. And it makes no sense to me. These are games that came out, you know what, 12, 13 years ago. These should be fully compatible on this device, yet for some reason you can't even install it on. I think you can install, but it's not going to work. Like, when you go to the compatibility page, it straight up says this will not work on the dock, on the deck. So that's troublesome because, like, something like that I feel like should work, especially when one of the showpieces for the system is Marvel Spider-Man and Miles Morales. Like, those games work flawlessly on the device. Fuck, you can play Hogwarts Legacy on this thing. That's a, like, a very, very recent game that works fully on this deck. So there's no excuse for Batman the Arkham games to not work on this thing. That's kind of bullshit, but you'll run into that. I tested a ton of games. I mean, I have a ton of games installed on this thing. What I ended up doing after doing my research, I bought the low-end tier model because, from my understanding, the versions that have the M2 drive in them don't actually take too much advantage of the speeds. So you're really just paying more money for more expensive type of storage, and that's stupid. You can put an SD card in this thing. Or I should say a micro SD card, which is what I ended up doing. So I bought the low tier model. I don't care about like etched glass or whatever they were trying to pimp for the highest one. I went ahead and bought this version. Is the machine still kind of steep in price? Yes, it is. Like, it's a tougher pill to swallow. I believe when I purchased it, and it's $400 for the low tier, which, you know, that's in between the price of a Nintendo Switch and buying either an Xbox Series X or a PS5, you know, at $500. So this, you know, comes into like, if you're really a handheld gamer and you have a massive Steam library, you know, this device is for you. If you're the Switch owner out there that's fucking tired of waiting for a Switch Pro or whatever Nintendo's next version of the Switch is, this device is night and day better than a Switch for handheld games. It's a fantastic handheld. For me, I compare it, like, if you compare it to the Switch, just like, it's bigger, but to me it feels like a Game Gear. That's what it honestly feels like to me. Like, when I use the device, it doesn't feel like a Switch for me. It feels like a Game Gear, which is wild. I haven't touched a Game Gear in a while, but that's what it felt like to me when I first loaded the system up. Obviously, you have to remember too, this thing's never going to have physical games. This is a digital only system. And again, you're going off of Steam, you're going off their updates. They regularly update this thing. It seems like every time I turn the system on, it has an update. My battery's actually really low on it right now, so I need to charge it. One of the other things I think that is like really fucking cool about this thing is they actually ship it with a carrying case, which I'll show you guys. Like, this is the carrying case for it. Like, this is fantastic because this case alone for me would be like a, you know, $20-$30 purchase, like if I was buying a Switch right now, right? They just ship that with it for free. It's part of the package, and I think that's awesome because now I don't have to go out hunt for, you know, a case for this thing. They don't give you one thing I will say, they don't give you a screen protector. I had to buy that separately, but I expected that. As a handheld, you know, I've tried many games on here. It's cool to play games that you never thought you would be able to play on a handheld at 60 frames. And that's the most important thing to know, and probably the coolest aspect of this is pretty much every game that I tried, you're running it at 720p 60 frames on a handheld. And comparing that to the Nintendo Switch, it's night and day different, especially with some of the recent releases. You know, I've joked a lot on the channel and on the podcast, but like, it's a true statement. Like, whenever there's a Nintendo Switch Direct, if a game is not a Nintendo first party published game, I play the game after that that conference of, okay, where else can I play the game? Because I do not want to play it on that system. It's probably going to run poorly. What's cool about this now is, like, do you want to play Triangle Strategy? Here's a great way to play that game, and it will run much better. On my installed dock, I'll just go through some of the games that I have installed that I've tested here. That's wild to play on a handheld today. Messed around a little bit with Dragon's Dogma. It's a pretty good way to play Dragon's Dogma at 60 frames. Obviously, Deadly Premonition 2 runs like absolute dog shit on the Nintendo Switch, and it was an exclusive game for like a year on the Switch until it came to Steam. You can run that game at 60 frames on this device, and you know what? That's fantastic. Game that I played the most out of everything that's on here for whatever reason is Victor Vaughn. I don't know why. I just was in the mood for a Diablo type game. It plays very well on here, and it runs incredibly smooth. Other games that I've tried: Lost Planet 3, the original Fable, like that Anniversary Edition. I tried that. Escape Dead Island, which is a pretty good offshoot of Dead Island if you've ever played that game. That runs really well here. A Medieval, which is a really good Doom retro shooter. Dusk, another good retro Doom shooter that plays really well here. Here's an important one, and I tried a couple of them. Any of the Dead Rising games. So I'm talking Dead Rising the original, all the way up to 4, play flawlessly on this device at 60 frames. That's ridiculous, you know, and it's awesome to see this on a device like this, that it works, and it just fucking works. So, so those are the strengths of the machine. Is like, you already probably have a Steam library. You might as well get this device if you want to play these games handheld. It kind of has that same feeling of like, remember when the Nintendo Switch came out and you set up the system, you popped in your copy of Zelda, because that's probably what you bought with the machine, and you had that moment of like taking it out of the dock from the TV and just immediately playing it handheld. You have that kind of same feeling with this device, only the difference I would say is you're running games at 60 frames and they run flawlessly. So if you're a frame rate person like me, you're gonna have a hell of a great time with the Switch dock. And again, if I were to rate this thing just as a handheld, I would, if I rate this thing just as a handheld, this portion of it, it's an A. It's a fantastic device. They're only improving upon it right now with just, you know, updates like weekly with the device. More and more games are becoming compatible with it. It's a fantastic device, and again, it's not a hard sell if you have a large library of Steam games. So where this device falls short, where I have an issue with it, is the TV docking. So I bought the TV dock for it from Valve as well. And here's the biggest caveat, here's the biggest problem that I've run into. Unless there's a patch or a developer allows a game to run at a higher resolution coming off of this dock than 720p, when you plug this into your TV and you go to load that game, it's gonna run at 720p. I'll give you a prime example, Dragon's Dogma. One of the things I was so excited about with this thing, finally, I have a way to play Dragon's Dogma at 60 frames on a big screen TV and not have it connected to my personal computer. And I set it up, and I was immediately crushed when it's 720p. And then I had to go doing some digging on the Steam forums to find out you kind of have to pick and choose. There's certain games will allow you to change the resolution and have a higher resolution. Again, the dock is perfectly capable of outputting 4K. Like, it is a 4K dock, but it is up to the developer to either patch or put that option in there when playing the game off the dock, from my understanding. And if I'm wrong on that, please, you know, post something here and I completely will change my opinion on the dock if there's something I'm missing. But from my understanding right now, that is how the dock works, and it's extremely disappointing, because I do want to have that ability to also dock the machine and play games that way as well off of a TV. One of the biggest reasons I bought this device was there's a slew of RPGs that I want to play that aren't anywhere else, you know, right now. Or for example, like Chrono Trigger. Right now, arguably the best version of Chrono Trigger, because they've patched it this way, is the Steam version. And the only way to play that is on your PC, but now you can play it on a Steam Deck. So I have a bunch of the older East titles that aren't available anywhere else. I can play those finally on a handheld device. So again, if I review just the system, it's an A. I think it's a great device. I think it's only going to improve. Are there things they can do to improve, like how the device feels in your hands and stuff down the road? Sure, they can make a slimmer version of it. Maybe they can update it to a 1080p screen with 60 frames. You know, those things would be nice, but I think for right now, the device is really awesome. It works. I like using the device. I've spent a pretty decent amount of time with it. But again, and now that I've explained to you the TV dock portion, that's the reason why I didn't put any footage in this review, because what is that going to prove to you? So, I mean, I could hold up the device and tell you, hey man, I have a Steam Deck. So, but I didn't feel like setting all of that equipment up just to show you 720p footage of a game. So, anyways, A is my overall review for that hardware. Again, I think if you're a Steam user and you want to play a lot of these games on the go or on a handheld device, it's a great investment. Just get the low-end model and put an SD card in there and you're going to be just fine. Anyways, I'd love to know in the comments below, have you guys used this device? Do you guys like it? Remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And as always, until next time.